Welcome to my show, When Everyone Wins, where a key goal I have for you is shifting from power over and under to power within and between. I'm your host, Judy Ryan. In each episode, I'll share my knowledge from decades in workplace culture transformation and leadership development as the founder and CEO of LifeWorks Systems. I'll help you build trust and emotional and social intelligence. My show, When Everyone Wins, is about creating a life you love and helping others do the same. Welcome, everyone, back to my show on When Everyone Wins. The title of today's episode is Remaining Intact by Strengthening the Power Within. I see this all the time in myself and other people. Many people lose themselves in relationships. They clue into what's expected and they start to compromise their own priorities and their sense of self just to maintain a bond in which they've become attached. Over time, the love that's offered in those relationships loses its meaning and its value, and the sense of ourself takes too many hits. Sometimes people decide it's just better to be alone because at least then I can hold on to myself and remain intact. But that's not the only option. In relationships lies the opportunity to maintain ourselves while managing our interpersonal dynamics with others, all without selling our soul. But this requires that we develop our power within, our intentionality, and refrain from trying to get the upper hand by engaging in power over or letting ourselves be dominated in power under either. The power within that strengthens our sense of self requires that we let go of the need for love, approval, and acceptance from others. And that's easier said than done. From that place, we can keep our hearts open while managing our relationships, making what we think and what we feel matter more than what others want from us or what they think of us. This is not done by separating ourselves from others. It's done by keeping our hearts open and determining to be the constant. We decide to be the one that is responsible for the love that we hold for ourselves and for others, no matter what they do or what they decide. And that's not always easy. I can't think of a better person to be really discussing this with than my guest today. She's a woman who has declared for and made decisions to own her voice and to live a life of authenticity so that she can help others, particularly women at this time, but men too, to do the same. Just as when we declare for peace, all war breaks out. And it's out here to be cleared. So too does her declaration for women's empowerment bring up all the things that need to be cleared away within women, including within herself. When life tests us, we can become defeated, or we can realize that these tests are the gateway to a life we love because we gain the skill to remain intact despite them. With all of this in mind, let me tell you a little bit more about my guest, Shae. Jamie's a true trailblazer in empowerment, a transformational coach, and an inspiring voice for change. Jamie's story is one of grit, resilience, and unwavering determination. Her purpose is to cause love, worthiness, and inclusion for all. She's currently being certified in Culture EX, a culture change process, as an oversight consultant in my company, LifeWorks Systems. She's also one of our partners. She also has a show on this network called Something to Say, because silence is no longer an option. So here we are talking about being intact while we are two women not willing to be silent. Coming from humble beginnings with no formal education, Jamie defied the odds to build a thriving career in a male-dominated tech industry. With over 20 years of experience in agile consulting and coaching and 14 years as a life coach, she's mastered the art of relationship building, navigating challenges, and creating lasting success, all while becoming financially successful, building lifelong friendships, and modeling integrity, truth, and love. On a personal note, Jamie left an abusive marriage and learned to stand on her own 2 feet while raising her children as a single parent. Not an easy thing to do. She's healed from loss and continues cultivating her own personal and professional growth. Her journey is a testament to the power of persistence, curiosity, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Now, Jamie's on a mission to help people, especially women at this time, to reclaim their power, to come alive, to speak their truth, to set boundaries, and to create a life they love so that they too can rise, thrive, and transform the world. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Judy. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I am too. I am too. So, tell me about where you have had the biggest struggles remaining intact. Because here you are, being a voice for being a voice, and all that stuff comes up. So, tell
Yeah.
our audience about that.
By far, romantic relationships is where I have struggled to remain intact. I have been, I've learned how to become confident and successful and grounded, but when it came to sharing a space, a physical space with a man, I would completely lose myself. It's almost like I was so lost. It's almost like I never even knew myself at all.
Mhm.
And I, although I was conscious of the shift happening, I knew that there was a change within me and how I behaved and how I responded and how I acted. I didn't know what was happening or why, and I certainly didn't know how to change it. I also struggled with friendships in my life earlier in my life as well, where I felt like I allowed friends to choose me instead of me having standards or knowing what kind of friendships I wanted to cultivate.
Wow. Yeah, I can relate to all of that. And I think a lot of women in particular can relate to that, that we've
Mm.
been raised with so many romantic notions about being sugar and spice and being this, pleasant, people-pleasing kind of person that it almost feels like it doesn't jive with reality when we're in either these romantic relationships or also these friendships.
Yeah.
So, is it okay to go here? I know you're in a relatively new relationship.
Yep.
And there's always so many conflicting kind of things going on in a new relationship. Kind of like we talk in our work about pseudo community, and then we get into chaos with one another, which
Yep.
is, where we're trying to overcome those ways that we show up where we're either against each other or we're against ourselves and move into
Yeah.
some place where we're not either of those. So, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I am in a relationship for the first time in 12 years. So
Mm,
I chose to stay single for a long time after my second marriage ended in divorce. Um, this relationship is unlike any relationship I've been in. He's unlike any man I've ever met. He treats me better than I've ever been treated. He is love personified. He is just a very wonderful man. And
okay.
sharing space with him um, has been a challenge for me simply because I don't want to lose myself again. So I'm so conscious of remaining intact,
Mhm.
knowing who I am, knowing my power, and also so that kind of those patterns kind of creep up and the fear can take over.
Mhm.
Um, and so I've just had to really stay true to myself and take time when I need to call friends, um, or just give myself space. So one of the ways that I get back in touch with who I am and my power is in meditation or my relationship with source and God. And I really sit with that and remind myself of who I am. I've and that I don't have to change who I am to be in a loving relationship,
Mhm.
because I think I felt that way in the past. I think that's what the shift was that if they really knew me, and now that we're sharing space, there's no way not to know each other intimately. Excuse me. I think deep down I felt like once somebody really knew who I was, they wouldn't want to be with me. And
Yeah.
so I froze and I became it was almost like, "Just tell me who to be," in those old relationships, and I can do that. I could do anything you need me to do, and I'm not willing to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
be myself, and I know that I'm lovable, And even if he were to change his mind about me and say, you know what, now that we live together and I do see you for who you are, I don't want that. I would still be okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with me now. And I know I can do whatever I need to do to be okay.
Yeah, well, you said a couple really important things. You said, when I go to that place of feeling like I'm losing myself, I'll reach out and connect with people. And I
Mhm.
remember you and I, one time recently where I said, feel free to call me. And you said, well, if you really know me, you might not like me. And I said, who gives a shit? And really that's hopefully integrated within you because yes, we do care. We do want to feel love, approval, and acceptance. We all are human that way. But if
Yeah.
we overly concerned with it, the love loses its value because
Yes.
it's not really love, it's protection and defensiveness on a level because of the protection. So, but what I love about what you're saying is there's to really be in a healthy attachment in our internally and with other people, we need to feel seen and safe and soothed. And it sounds like you're learning how to get that from God, how to get that from yourself, and how to get that from trustworthy friends.
Yes.
And I also wonder, I don't know if this is something you would want to comment on, but I also wonder if when you have a relationship that's better than one you've ever had, that can bring up a lot of feelings like, how could this be? Do I really deserve this? Can I get okay with this? Is
Yeah.
this really for real?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely have questioned if it's for real. Um, he has said to me a few times, like, it has to be exhausting living with your mind because my mind is it can play tricks on me. I'm very analytical. I'm like a detective. Nothing gets by me. But I also can read into things that aren't there.
Mm.
So yes, I think this feeling so good actually scares me more than I've ever been scared before
Yeah.
because and I've seen, true, like, to be fully transparent, I wondered for a long time if he was conning me. Like, is he just a great con man? I mean, this is the stuff we do to ourselves when we don't feel worthy or we don't believe this kind of love exists. And I've honestly haven't met many men, I'm not gonna say any, many men that haven't disappointed me in some way. And it's almost like I was always waiting for him to disappoint me.
Right, right. So when you have something good, it feels like I don't want to relax into it. Brene
Yeah.
Brown calls that foreboding joy, where we're waiting for the other shoe to fall. And so we
Mhm.
can't really completely remain as open as we'd like unless we consciously choose to be. And
Yes.
I think that's the real key is to keep remembering I want my love to be valuable. And if I'm pretending or I'm hiding, it's not valuable.
Yep.
So, why do you think people sell their souls? And how do you think they are doing it? Like, how do you see it where, it's really funny. I have a consultant that's worked with me, and she likes to talk about people doing power over, but she doesn't like to really look at how people do power under. And
Mm.
what I see is how we do power under.
Oh,
Like before we were on the call, we were talking about language and how I listen for words like, well, I really need to do this, or I really ought to do this, or I really should do this. And
yeah.
how that is a place where we're actually in power under because we're not saying, well, wait a minute, do I actually want to do this?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I think we sell our souls when the minute we feel like we have to shrink ourselves
Mhm.
to be accepted, to be loved or lovable, that being our full crazy, if that's what we feel we are, or wild, free, untamed self is too much. And that's what I've felt. I've always felt like I was too much, um, or not enough. So, like, it was never just okay. And so I feel like we sell ourselves whenever we feel the need to shrink or be silent or change ourselves or not be authentic, we're selling our soul for something, for love that's not even love, because how could it be love if we're not fully ourselves in it? And I think I always felt like I am an overgiver. I overgive, I overstay, I overfunction, I take care of people. I make sure everything has its place. It's taken care of. I'm very responsible, very, very responsible. And that makes you a very serious person all the time. And it takes all the joy out of life. When we sell our soul, there's no joy there. It's work because we have to maintain this facade. We find ourselves in relationships that don't fulfill us, that jobs that drain us, friendships that aren't really real. And when sometimes you have friends that are there when things go bad because people love to come in and help. But when things are going great in your life or you have something to celebrate, your friends aren't always there to clap for you. And that's when I figured out, wow, I don't really have that many great friends because they're not cheering for me. They're not supporting the things that I'm trying to
Hmm.
do. They're not happy for me when good things happen to me. And so I really wanted to look at how all of the all of these things were me. I was at the center of all of these things, right? That felt good. I'd accomplished a lot, but there was no joy in any of it.
Hmm.
And I had to say, okay, well, that's me at the middle of all of that. I'm creating all of that. So where where have I sold my soul? Where am I selling my soul? Where have I, if I lost all this stuff today, what's left?
Hmm.
And really, I just want intimate relationships that are meaningful and authentic and real. And that required vulnerability, which I never learned. No one taught us how to have intimate relationships and be
Well,
vulnerable.
you've said so many amazing things. One of the things that I would say, though, that I can really relate to is I was always treated as though I was too much as a kid. I mean,
Mm.
the thing I remember most my parents saying to me was, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, like settle down, you know. I
Yeah.
was intense. I'm very analytical also. So I can really relate to that. My sister one time started crying and said, I hated seeing your power kind of squashed as a
Mm.
kid. You know, and
Oh,
I'm sure if you had somebody around that could witness that, that actually really helped me to hear her say that.
I bet.
Um, what if, like for me, what I'm really starting to do is embrace that intense part of me that is not so typical because I'm kind of unconventional and I think you are as well.
Yeah.
And we're also real committed to our radical self-acceptance, which threatens a lot of women and men who are not yet there, where they're kind of selling their souls and they don't want you reminding them that they're selling their souls, you know. So I
Exactly.
have some things that I read that help me remember that this is who I am, and it is a blessing to the world. Even though when I feel rejected, it doesn't always feel like it's such a blessing, but I know deep down inside that it is because it's time for us to evolve.
Yeah.
And but one of the things I would challenge about what you're saying is I think you are a serious person just like I am, but deep down
Mm.
inside, I think you also have a silly, playful, goofy, fun self. And I'm finding the more that I can really give myself and create the healing that I need and the relationship that I need with my creator and also with my own real tribe that understands and accepts me. I find this funny, silly, goofy part coming out. You know, and
Yeah.
I was thinking about I'm writing an article on being seen, safe, and soothed. And for me, being seen, um, I keep thinking I want to name some part of me that's like my big bad bouncer, you know, keeps me safe, you know. So I know that you and I both have that, but when we're
Yeah.
so I think probably we're both kind of hyper vigilant about
Yep.
protecting ourselves. We don't even let ourselves be goofy and silly and maybe even kind of ridiculous at times as we're learning how to let that side out.
Yes.
So
Oh,
I just, you
absolutely.
know, I encourage that in you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have really stepped out of my comfort zone in the last couple of years, probably the last year, to make posts on social media. I was terrified of people even looking at me. I hated people looking at me. Even my own family at Christmas, opening Christmas presents. I was so uncomfortable with people looking at me. And I've really just worked to get comfortable being uncomfortable with it because
Yeah.
I know I have a mission bigger than I even know. And I'm just willing to do what it takes to be uncomfortable to fulfill it. So,
I love that you're saying this because people that are watching this see how absolutely beautiful you are, how articulate you are. They hear about your accomplishments. And yet, even with all of that, you almost feel like you have to hide
yeah,
and that you're choosing not to. But
yes,
it really is almost beyond logic that not even almost, it's beyond logic that you would ever be afraid of being seen. And yet you're able to say, gosh, I am like that. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of other people can really relate with that. I also
Yeah.
thought it was interesting that you talked about how sometimes friends disappear when your life is going well.
Hmm.
Um, because we talk about that in the training you've been in with me about meeting bids, about entrainment, about being able, is how important that is when things are going well.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
people
yeah.
go, oh, rad, good for you, bravo. You broke through. And
Yes.
that's almost more important than them being there when we're struggling.
Absolutely. I believe that. And that's when you see who your true friends are, is they're there for both, you know. And I will say, like, I'm not always the greatest friend. Like, I get really uncomfortable with certain things, like when someone loses like a death. I get very uncomfortable. So I don't always know how to be there for other people. Um, but I'm definitely better at I think celebrating friend successes than I am. Maybe because I've already have such a full plate taking care of my kids as a single parent and surviving, right? You can only give so much when you're already over giving. But yeah, I do feel like friendships, creating authentic friendships really has to start with you being willing to be vulnerable. And I just wasn't. I don't
Mhm.
think people, even my closest friends in Des Moines, I lived there for 26 years. I had a lot of friends, but I don't know if any of them really knew me because I didn't really let them into my life. They integrated me into theirs, honestly. Like, I knew their moms and sisters and friends from school. Um, but I was so protective of me and my little family that they knew of my kids and met them, but I didn't really allow anyone to be integrated into our life.
Which
Uh,
is kind of living from a lot of fear in a way.
mhm.
And when you talk about, I don't always know how to help somebody or be with them when they're going through a hard time. I found that the more that I'm with myself through the hard times, the better I'm able to be with other people. Because what I mean, I keep thinking about how Brene Brown says, rarely does a solution help when somebody's suffering. It's connection. Excuse me. And so, when there is a connection, we can even say, I don't know what to say to you right now.
Yeah.
I think we're
Yeah.
going to go to a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. Hey, I had to ask for kind of an emergency break there because I started coughing. And for those who know me, I know that the throat chakra is often affected when we're speaking something that is difficult for us to speak. So I was thinking about, well, what was I saying that led into this coughing fit, And I think it's really about connecting with all the aspects of ourself. It's a radical self-acceptance. And as much as we are growing, because I would say you're growing that way also, Jamie, and I'm
Mhm.
working on that as well. um, it brings up a lot of fear because we have been oppressed in saying what's really true for us, the vulnerable, even the darker feelings sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are the costs that people pay for the people pleasing that they're doing?
Mm. People pleasing has there's a lot of costs associated with that. And the true cost is, like having a life that feels good to you, that is filled with truth, true relationships, true friendships, true alignment with the work that you do and the money that you can bring in with that. We pay such a price energetically, physically, mentally, emotionally, and in our relationships when we are people pleasing. It seems like as women, especially, we've been taught or conditioned to believe that self sacrifice is something we're supposed to do, that it's loving. And people pleasing really just robs everyone of who you really are. And we're not here to be fake. We're not here to pretend. We're not here to wear masks all the time and then go home and cry in the corner, or live for vacations and live for the weekends, because I really feel like that's why people so desperately want to escape their reality and go to a vacation. I myself was that way for years ago. I went to on this beautiful trip for my 40th birthday, and it was the most beautiful. It was Isla Mujeres off of Cancun. Is beautiful. And I cried when I had to go back home, not because I don't love my kids and being with them, but the rest of my life was so empty. But it was because I was just not being real with myself about my marriage at that time. I wasn't being real about, you know, how can I manifest a job I love, friends I have, true friendships, and a loving relationship with a man. I didn't know how to do that then because I didn't realize I wasn't being true to myself. I was making decisions based on survival and fear and trying to be something society said is okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you said, being in an unhappy marriage or an unhappy job for many people, I think a lot of times, like, I know when I went through, because I've been divorced once, and it was the hardest thing I ever went through because I wasn't being beaten. I didn't have an alcoholic spouse. He wasn't he had a good job. He did good things. It wasn't like anybody's all one thing or another, but I was unhappy and I felt like I didn't have enough justification to leave. And I think a lot of times we sell our souls because we are conditioned to think that we have to be in serious harm or serious abuse in order to leave. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a reason I think a lot of us are people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, I think a lot of times we do people pleasing without realizing we're doing it. Like I was aware of a period of time with my work where if work was slow, I would compromise things that I had said I would not, but I didn't consciously realize how much I wanted to not compromise them. So one of the examples was I like to have shared power, which is what this program is also about. Win-win. And you can't have win-win if you have like the leaders of a company all in one group and then the frontline staff in a different group.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a client or a prospect would say, "Well, I don't want to mix all the levels like that. I just want to put my leaders all through this." I would say, "Well, okay, but here's what you're going to lose." But I would accept that. And I recently was doing a discovery conversation with a prospect, and he said, "Yeah, I think I want to put my leaders and supervisors through first." And I said, "I don't allow that anymore because I know that is not it defeats this power within and power between and power for one another because you're already signaling that
Yep.
you are willing to do power over and power under by keeping things so separate." And I felt so good because it was a place where I was not people pleasing that I would have just justified in my own mind. And it
Mm-hmm.
may even seem like like a simple thing. And why are you being so hard about that? Maybe they'll do it later, but I know that it never works out when I do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's this compromise that we make in a lot of ways in every area of our life. We really have to weigh that compromise. Like, do we really want this? Are we agreeing to do this to get something? And I think we often do that to like show our loyalty or maybe to get the loyalty that we want so badly. I really feel like deep down people pleasing is trying to get versus give, but it is a lot of giving. But
Yes.
I think it's just getting to that conscious, like, what do we really want?
Mhm.
And having these honest, direct, uncomfortable conversations with each other and being willing to be uncomfortable saying something like that, right? You were risking him saying, well, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to work with your company then if I have to do it for all my staff. You are risking losing a client, project, money. So we risk something in being so honest and stating what we want. But that's where real, authentic alignment happens in our life. And that's when we could start to just feel good all the time or most of the time. It's when we compromise ourselves and our truth, we don't feel good. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because you're talking about compromising to get something or compromising to not lose something. And yet, as we compromise, we lose stuff anyway.
we do.
And
Yeah.
get everything we want anyway, you
Yeah.
know, and so we might as well have this sense of I know who I am and I feel right because I didn't sell a part of myself for this.
Yes.
And I do see that it's just a pattern. And I see it in kind of mob mentality. I was just talking to somebody the other day, I can't remember who it is, but she said, I do so much better when I'm alone with somebody one-on-one than when I'm in a group, because when I'm in a group, it feels like there's more like a mob mentality. And I think that's true in
Mm,
almost any group we're in.
yes.
Because the truth of it is we could lose status. Like I've lost status with some of the people in my own family, and here I'm a parent educator and a relationship expert, you know.
Hmm.
And so when we are ourselves, we can suffer um, like status hits, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and reputation hits, and people going, well, how can you help me when you can't get along with so and so, you know? And we have to be able to learn how to come to terms with all of that.
Yes. Yes, we
You know,
do.
when we went on the break, I went and grabbed this thing that I was thinking of when we were talking about you feeling like you were too much. And it's this little quote thing that I read to myself. They'll call you crazy because you are, because you were born with a gift of seeing things differently, and that scares them. They're going to call you intense. That's what made me think of you, because you are, because you were born with the value well placed to allow yourself to see, to feel it all fully, and that intimidates them. They're going to call you selfish because that's right, because you found out that you're the most important thing in your life and that doesn't suit them. You know, even reading that, I'm surprised I'm not coughing again,
Yeah.
because we are so, at least I am, so sensitive to being judged.
Yep. Yep.
Only not loved, approved, and accepted, but judged as unworthy or selfish or what have you. What are some of the things that you've noticed in speaking out, speaking up, that have come against you at this time in your life?
Oh, well, so far I haven't gotten too much backlash. Actually gotten a lot of support for speaking up, standing up for women. Um, People that knew me in career, in my corporate career, they're not surprised. I did this as a consultant for women in organizations that were being badly treated. I would speak up and try to start some change within the organization. But I will say that I think the biggest obstacle was me. That it
Yeah.
was me being okay, being judged or being seen as intense, because I am intense and I can be incredibly intense when I'm really passionate. I have to watch my delivery. I have to learn, right? I can't just be like, well, that's who I am and make, like treat people terribly because I'm intense. It's a combination of allowing myself to be who I am, but also, you know, softening the hard edges of how it can come across and being self-aware, which is you teach that self-awareness, that social awareness, which is what you teach is needs to be world known. It's so incredible what you teach, and I've learned so much taking your courses. But I think there's a fine line to walk between allowing yourself to be who you really are, but also delivering that in a way that's not harsh or causing harm or just being destructive, because I can certainly do that too. I know my words have a lot of power, and I know my presence is much bigger than my physical body. And I have to be aware of that
Yeah,
and allow it to work
you make a
for
really
me.
good you make a really good point about how do we accept this intense, serious side of ourselves while being thoughtful of what we cause one another. And I
Yes.
think that's where it comes into recognizing when we're in our own fear, because I don't think we will push other people when we're not in our fear.
Mhm. Yeah.
And when we're in our higher intention, which for
Yeah.
you is to, to promote people feeling included, to make them feel, worthy. And you
Yes.
said that one of the things that you are like your worst enemy. So right now you're not having a lot of places where you're taking a hit for being yourself, but maybe internally. What are
Yep.
some of the things that you hear internally that say, oh, you're not good enough or whatever? Do you have any of those that you're aware of right now?
Oh, yeah. That perfectionist thing is something I've been working on. Um, that I don't have to be perfect. I just need to be real. And so I'm still learning that, but yeah, the I'm not good enough, or why hasn't it taken off yet? Why am I not, what I'm saying hasn't it, like, kind of, what for you? Why is this content not mainstream? What
Yes.
you are talking about and what you're offering the world is so valuable. And me helping women reclaim their voice and get out of bad situations or just joyless situations.
Yes.
I feel like, why hasn't it taken off yet? Why aren't more people grabbing this and running with this information and our life experiences and what we've learned and what we can share? And so yeah, that does like get in my head and be like, I'm not doing it right. I'm not good at this, all those things.
Yeah, that's the part I was hoping you would get to, because it's not only why isn't this mainstream, it's like, what am I doing? Am I as good as I think I am? Am I really bringing something as valuable as I know is valuable?
Yeah.
It's all
Yep.
that self-doubt, all that self-recrimination and all of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and that's been a lifelong thing. You've helped me see that I question myself too much, that I have such good instincts, and I know I do have great intuition, and I often know the answer, whatever the question or problem is, but I question myself too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And if
Can
I
you
just
tell our
go,
audience how you have started to see that? Like how you've been learning that from our you mentoring or whatever. Like what are the
yeah,
things that have been the clues for you?
um, that I will make statements that and sound like a question at
Yeah.
the end is one thing. When I'm not asking a question, I'm saying it. But it definitely makes it sound like I'm like, am I right?
Right.
Um, I will also uh, hesitate and not go with my first instinct. So that you pointed that out, I think, in class one, which was like class number one, and that was powerful for me. Um, Also, when I say things like I should or I need to, you've helped me question that. Where's it, is there resistance? Do I really want that? Am I doing it to please or because other people think I should be doing that? Um, the self-doubt, I'm trying to think what else. Do you remember any
Well,
specific?
what's interesting about what you're saying is it doesn't even mean that when you're saying those things like I ought to or I should or is that right? It doesn't mean that you don't know. It just means that you're believing that there's something bigger than you that matters more than you. Like that's what we mean. You remember when we talk about other directed and self-directed.
Yes.
In the other directed, we will feel and act like a victim, or we will feel small, or we
Yeah.
will start getting real defensive. And what it simply means when we are a little bit unsure in the way we're communicating is there a barrier here? Why am I not aware of what I'm feeling and what I want? And is it that I'm not aware of what I'm feeling and what I want? Or is it that I'm afraid that if I express what I'm feeling and what I want, I could get in trouble?
Mm,
Because
yeah.
because now I'm in the little girl. I'm not in the adult, right?
Right. Right.
And it's really interesting. I think that's why when I write this article, I want to put like a bouncer because when I do some healing work with a theta healer, Alyssa,
Yep.
and one of the things that came up for me was that I now have this sense of a guardian with armor around me, not in front of me, blocking me, but around me, supporting me. And
Mhm.
it's really been a great feeling because what it does is it causes me to step into that adult part of me and not feel like I'm a defenseless child. And I think a lot of our listeners and a lot of people in the world right now, we're so rocked by feeling as though we have no power. And so you're noticing, wow, I have this habit of sort of shrinking by saying probably or I need to do this and it's just a feeling of something else is bigger than me and I'm not safe.
Mm.
You think
Wow.
that
Yeah.
does that feel true?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I never thought of it like that. I never thought of it like that. But yeah, thinking that there's something bigger than me. Um, yeah, that's a really strong visual to keep in mind whenever I use words like that because there isn't.
There isn't. Oh. There
There
isn't.
isn't.
And yet if we get that big and we feel that like, wait a minute, there is nothing bigger, then we get scared that people are going to reject us.
Yes, that is
We can't win from losing,
we
right?
can't we can't, no. And being in your power, yeah, it feels great and it's amazing. But yeah, there's gonna be people who try to knock you down because of that, because
Right.
they're afraid of their own power,
Yes.
and you being in your power reminds them how they're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it really is true what Marianne Williams said is our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. It's that we're powerful beyond measure, you know? And so let's talk about where you have stood in your power. Because I could hear it when you were talking about why isn't this work out there, and when you're helping people, like, isn't that's where I go into my adult where I'm like, I am here for you and I'm gonna, I'll do that for other people. And I think you are the same way. So where are you remaining intact, being the constant in your life, being the constant in your relationship with your new romantic relationship? Tell us, if you could, a few stories about how you've been doing that.
Yeah, well, I have it's been a little lackluster lately, but I have a strong connection with source, and I either go in nature or meditate. And I really just go back to that space of knowing who I am and what I'm here to do, and also the joy piece. I feel like I'm doing the show because I love it, because it's fun and it's also meaningful to me. So whether it takes off or not, I'm just doing it to maybe it'll help one person and that's enough. But one thing I have this really amazing story. When I was in my second marriage, it was towards the end. I knew I needed to get out. It was just a matter of when and how. And I went to sleep at night and I was almost desperately asking, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Over and over and over. And in this dream, a feminine figure appeared and with her hands like this. And she said, do you want to know who you are? And I was like, yes, please. And I was like staring at her hands. And she opened them slowly to revealing an entire galaxy. And she said, you are even more than this.
Wow.
And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. But I can still see it in my head. And what I've come to know about that is we are powerful beyond measure, and we are all connected to each other. We
Yeah.
are all connected. And knowing that we are more, all of us are that. It's not just me. We're all more than a galaxy. We have so much power. We have so much love. We're capable of love. I didn't know how capable I was of love until I had my first child and then my second. I was actually afraid that I wouldn't love my second child
Me
because I
too.
loved my first one so much.
I was too. Like, how can I have another one? And what if it takes away from the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, there's no way I can love two people as much as I love my daughter. Like, it felt so overwhelming. And then I literally cried and prayed about that. Like, please, God, let me love this child as much as I love my first, because I didn't want to have favorites, and I didn't. And he came along, and of course, like, and I was like, wow, I am capable of holding this much love. That's amazing. I didn't know I was capable of that.
Yeah.
And so just having them in my lives have taught me how much I'm capable of and how strong I am. But when we come back to who we are and we're rooted in our being, when we're rooted in who we are, and we know that our power comes from within and that we're all equally as powerful, that that is true. That's where confidence comes from. That's where manifesting miracles comes from. That's where overcoming things you never thought you could overcome comes from. that that is the place of strength, is
Ah, and
connecting to who you are.
it's the place of service also.
And
We
yeah,
cannot be in service, real service, where we're not guarded or kind of rationing it or any of that.
yes,
And I also want to go back to when you were talking about I want to be who I am without hurting other people. I even think we have to get to the point where we screw it up a few times, maybe frequently,
Yeah,
and know that that doesn't mean we're we can learn each time.
yeah,
Some people will reject us right away, other people won't. They'll say, "Hey, good for you. You're just out there and you're taking the hits because you're human."
yeah,
And I think there's something about that that makes us realize we're bigger than our flaws.
yes.
And that's what I think I'm working on. That's why my throat started acting up a little bit. I'm bigger than my flaws, and my flaws are part of my growth process.
Hmm.
And when you think about that beautiful dream, that will help you stay in the self-directed side where you know that you're autonomous, that you're powerful, and
Yep.
you won't shrink.
Right.
Um, but it's really interesting because there's a book that I've ordered and it hasn't come yet, but it's called There's No Bad Parts.
Mm.
And from what I understand of it, it's kind of similar to what I'm doing in our work, the work of life work systems, but there's probably gifts in it for all of us. But it's really about reclaiming all these aspects of ourselves. And one of the things that somebody told me about it is that when you get mad at somebody, she says, I put them in a torture chamber. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds so terrible. It sounds like it's sinful. But there was a little part of me that was like, oh, I'd love to put a few people in the torture chamber. Not for real, but maybe just in imagination. And so
Hmm.
as women, I think we're taught to be sugar and spice and everything nice. We can't have like this warrior quality of I want to banish you to the torture chamber, even if it's just in imagination. And I just felt so tickled by that because what I think this is all about is to be intact, we have to reclaim the part of ourselves that we've been afraid of. I've been afraid of the
Absolutely.
part of myself that's angry or even rageful at times or
Yes.
hate. It doesn't mean I'm a hateful person.
Yes. That's why I got this tattoo. It's a snake and it's got lilacs around it. And it is about accepting the parts of me that I rejected, that I didn't like, and
Wow.
learning from those parts and taking them in as part of the whole, right? I can't be fully me if I'm rejecting the parts of myself I don't like. And so it was like, okay, well, let's be friends. And I know you're going to show up sometimes. And we're gonna have to merge. We're gonna have to merge because I have rage, I have anger, I have all these suppressed things from
Yes.
years and years of conditioning and self-sacrificing and people pleasing, thinking I'm doing the honorable thing when it wasn't what I wanted to do, and it, it wasn't for me. And I think allowing myself to say that's okay. I can learn from that and we're not going to do that anymore. And if people don't like that, that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think for a lot of people, I don't know if it's true for you. It's definitely true for me. A lot of that is religious conditioning, that it's
Yeah.
good to feel love. It's not good to feel hate. And really, the real enemy of love is not hate, it's indifference. But
Yes.
we're conditioned to think that we can't feel hate. So guess what? We have a bunch of bottled up hate that that leaks out,
Yes.
because we're not owning it. Just out of curiosity, when did you get that snake net tattoo and what precipitated it?
I got it for my birthday, I want to say 2 years ago. What precipitated it was um, I just looked around at my life and I'm like, a lot of this is great. I have everything. I have a great career. I'm making a lot of money. I have a lot of respect from my coworkers. I have a great reputation. I have friends. I make friends wherever I go. I had everything but a loving relationship, but I also realized that everything I had just didn't wasn't fulfilling me in the way that I wanted. And I read a lot of spiritual books and I like to read as well. And Wayne Dyer is one of my favorite
Mhm.
authors and spiritual teachers. And I bought a bunch of his books and I try to channel him when I can because he's so inspirational. And I just realized one day that if I wanted to be whole and have a life that's full, I have to accept all these parts of me that I'm afraid to show. And
Yeah.
so this is just a reminder that even the snaky side of me is still
Yes,
good.
I
It's still
love
good.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. You and I have talked about being commandos in the love revolution. If I ever got a tattoo, that's what it would say. Being commando is like being fierce, being on that front line in life.
Yes.
A person that stands for things and is, I don't even like the word fight, but kind of like committed, putting our heart into things and
Yes.
being willing to be on that front line, even though we're insecure and we get scared and we feel like maybe I'm a bad person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I love about what you're saying is that you have a conscious outward reminder that my flaws are okay. They're just part of that warrior spirit, that intense
Yes.
spirit within us. And I know for myself, and I just say this for our audience, is I prayed for the kind of friends that would accept me the way I am. Because, there's a saying that we're lucky if we have a couple good friends.
Yeah.
And and that I think is really true because who we are, the more we reveal, the more people can become reactive to us.
Hmm.
It is only when we're strong in our own self-friendship that I think we can attract more of what is aligned with us. I literally asked for a tribe that would let me deep dive because I don't like chit-chatty surface stuff.
Same.
Somebody called and said, "Hey, there's a group forming called Deepening Connections where we want to talk about meaningful things." I was like, "Oh my gosh." So
Wow.
I say that to our audience because this whole thing is about being intact. And part of being intact is accepting if you're intense, accepting if you're serious, accepting if you're silly, accepting if you want certain things that don't seem conventionally acceptable. And so are there any conventions that you feel that you have overcome in what you're doing?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've always been one to kind of buck the system and rebel a little bit. Disruptive, if I was one word to describe me, I think it would be disrupt because I
Mm.
love to disrupt status quo, like question everything. Question what we've been taught, question what you're told, question what, comes out of your mouth sometimes and you're like, where did that come from? It's probably conditioning or programming and you may not believe it really truly. It may not align with you, but uh, yeah, I'm always trying to like break anything that's conforming or I'm gonna try to challenge that.
Yes, but here's the thing I love about what you're saying. You are rebelling against the status quo. You are
Yeah.
rebelling against the conditioning. You're not rebelling against love or
No.
people. You're
Right.
rebelling against what prevents you from being your full expression of yourself, what
Yes.
prevents you from remaining intact. And what I really love about knowing you, Jamie, and having you on this show is that you not only talk about power and using it for good, you are a role model for it.
Oh,
And I'm
thank
glad that you let yourself be seen. Like right now, be seen. You're being seen as a person who is powerful from within in
you.
all the aspects of you. And I think you're fun and funny and playful and
Thank you.
amazing and helpful. So I just want to wrap this up by asking our listeners to really consider everything that is being said in this interview because we want you to reclaim yourself. We want you to find all the parts of you. We want you to be able to reach out to Jamie and reach out to me. Jamie, as I mentioned, has a show on this channel. Go find her, look her up, look up our programs, and really start learning how do I reclaim myself so
Mhm.
that I am developing that power within. Do you have any final words before we completely close this, Jamie?
I just want to thank you. You are such an inspiration. I am so grateful to know you, to call you a friend, to have you in my life. You are amazing, and I I'm just truly, truly grateful for you.
You. Same back to you too. And thank you to our audience who cares enough about everyone winning and wanting to learn how to stop doing power over and power under and choose power within and power between and power for one another, which begins by turning that power on loving ourselves, radical self acceptance, really deciding to be intact because the world needs you. The world needs you to help create win win solutions, relationships, and ways of saving our world. To not sound too dramatic, we need you to be intact. Thank you so much. You've been listening to When Everyone Wins, where we're shifting power over and under to power within and between. I'm Judy Ryan, your transformation talk radio host. Tune in each second and fourth Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time to learn new concepts and tools and listen to conversations I have with thought leaders and change agents. You'll also see real-world applications of what I'm covering so that you experience the power of the concepts and tools I share. In each episode, I bring you my knowledge from decades in workplace culture transformation and leadership development as the founder and CEO of LifeWorks Systems. I invite you to call in with your unique stories and questions. The path to ensure that everyone wins depends on our ability as people to create a life we love and help others do the same. For more information, visit lifeworksystems.com.